Hey everyone, this is Judy Reese with Homestar. Today on this podcast, we are going to talk about tips and tricks for getting ready to buy a new home, especially if you are a first-time home buyer. Today, I have my co-host and branch manager, Zach, here with me.
Good morning, everyone.
And today, we also have a very special guest, Boomer Lee of Boomer Lee Homes. He is with eXp Realty, and he covers the Chatham, Bryan, Liberty, Long, and Effingham counties. So welcome, Boomer.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. All right. So let's dig into some advice for when anyone is getting ready to buy a home.
Sounds good.
Zach, I remember you bought your home for the first time a few years ago, and that brought up a bunch of emotions for you. I feel like, at least. I remember, you having some frustrations and some joys. What are some of those things that you remember about that experience, both good and bad?
So for the bad, I remember there was a real level of frustration, feeling like I wasn't going to be able to find the house in my price range.
Yeah.
I had started off my search with a lot of properties, and it seemed like every single property I was interested was under contract before I even had a chance to view it. Right. So that kind of brought up a lot of frustrations, especially, I was a first-time home buyer. And then the best part was finding a house in the area that I wanted to live in, and finding everything that I wanted. I was looking for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or at least 2-bath, and that's exactly what I got. And now I have a great first home, and one day it will become an investment property for me.
I absolutely love that. You do have a goal. I think that's wonderful. And those are some great memories and actually really great experience that you can bring into what you do now. I bet as you're helping people get into a home for the first time, a lot of those memories must come up for you as well and kind of speak to your experience for the home buying process. So what would you say to people who are just embarking on their first home buyer journey, which is so exciting?
So I think everyone understands and feels that buying a house is a huge responsibility. It can be scary and really overwhelming. However, it's also important to remember that buying a home is a huge opportunity. Owning means you can have full control over your property. You can paint walls, you can change floors, you can do things to the ceiling, anything that you want to do that you couldn't do in a rental.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the most important piece with that is it's an investment for your future, and it helps your family build wealth.
Very, very, very good point. And as with any large purchase, and before you leap into all those fun benefits of homeownership, and remodeling, it sounds like, you should get prepared first. So that brings me to our special guest. Boomer Lee is a fabulous realtor that we have worked with. And what I've noticed about Boomer is he brings a wonderful level of care to his clients. So thank you, Boomer, for being here with us today and chatting with us.
Well, thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome. I have some questions for you, Boomer. I was reading an article in NerdWallet. I loved it. It had a lot of tips, too, about searching for a home. They wrote about the importance of choosing a good realtor carefully. Now, we have worked together, and I know you always take good care of your clients. So tell me about some of the things you do personally to help a home buyer shop for a home.
Well, I think, first of all, you want to find a realtor that you get along well with. You're going to be spending a lot of time with this realtor, looking at homes. So you definitely want somebody that you enjoy spending time with. As a realtor, I feel it's important to put the client first. And, I actively search for the perfect home for each client. Each client is different. One of the first things I had to learn as a realtor is that my perfect home is probably not going to be their perfect home. So,
right.
So I ask a lot of questions. I find out what they're looking for. And then, as I said, I actively look for that home. In this market especially, I want to make sure that I get them in that home before somebody else gets it. Zach, you mentioned the homes that you were seeing going under contract, before you could get it. And, I feel a responsibility to my buyers. So if you find a home you want to see, we'll go out today or, around your schedule as quickly as we can to see it and get an offer on it before somebody else gets it. I do guide clients through the process. It's not a process that most people do every day. So especially for a first-time home buyer, it can be a little bit scary. So I guide them through the process. And I have a lot of systems that I've developed over the years to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, especially once we get it under contract and are on the way to closing. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love to read articles about home buying and the mortgage process and tips and tricks. I think that it's very useful when helping clients, just like you have mentioned. HGTV.com wrote actually a fun article about buying secrets. They talked about the big difference between a potential buyer who's pre-qualified versus one who's already pre-approved. Now, you spoke to things disappearing quickly. In this market that we are in, what have you seen and how important do you feel pre-approvals are?
They're very important. As I'm sure you know, a pre-approval means that you've gone further through the process of approving that buyer.
Right.
Pre-qualification is basically just checking credit and asking questions and taking the buyer's word for the answers they give. So the stronger you can make your offer, especially in this crazy market, the better chance you're going to get of getting the home. And, I think most sellers know that a pre-approval is stronger than a pre-qualification. It gives them more comfort that they are going to get to closing as opposed to having things fall apart, during the process due to financing.
Right. Thank you so much. I think that is great advice. And I think it's very true, especially in this market. It has been crazy. It's very different than what I think we're used to seeing.
It really is. And, as far as making offers, you want a pre-approval, but you also you want to make your offer as clean as you possibly can. You don't want to ask the seller for too many things. And you need to have a good idea of what that home is going to sell for, because most homes right now are selling above asking price. But the question is, how much above? So if you really love that home, you need to have a good idea of what it's going to sell for.
Yeah, it's very important to be prepared. Pricing is bigger. Homes seem to be bigger from time to time. And I mean, it's not always that bigger is better when it comes to homes. The familyhandyman.com blog, I love that blog. They actually suggested that people should think about where they have lived before and use that as a guide. I almost disagreed with that a little bit, but I saw the truth in it. I went from a small apartment up in New England and then moved down here and lived in a tiny little apartment and then bought my house, which is huge. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. I don't know. How do you advise people when it comes to space if they're not really sure what they want or they've come from someplace small but now want big? How do you help to keep that realistic?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And there are a number of different ways you can look at it. I mean, from a value standpoint, you don't want the biggest house in the neighborhood. The biggest house in the neighborhood is everything pulls towards the middle. So the value, at least per square foot, of the biggest house is going to be less than the value of the smallest house. And so you want to think about that when you're looking for a home. But so it really depends on what the buyer wants and needs. Some people want a big house, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some people don't need a big house. They don't want to clean a big house. Some people don't want a big yard, and maybe a townhome is the perfect location for them because they're not going to have to worry about the maintenance of the yard during the spring and summer times. But on the other hand, you don't want to buy a house today, and then 6 months from now realize that you've outgrown it. So you do want to think about not only what your needs are today, but what your needs are going to be in the future. Most people, at least in this area, are keeping houses for 3 to 5 years. So you want to find a house that's going to suit your needs for the period of time that you plan to be in it.
Absolutely.
I think that's very, very, very good advice. I love that. I hadn't even thought about that, the big house and versus the small house in terms of value. So thank you for that. Now, I think, Boomer, for me at least, it's easy to see why a home buyer would feel at ease working with you to find a home. So I will say, if you are looking for a realtor in the Chatham, Bryan, Liberty, Long, or Effingham County areas, reach out to Boomer Lee, and let me tell you how to get in touch with him. His direct line is 912-642-3913. You can call his cell also, 912-312-5000, or shoot him an email at boomerleehomes@gmail.com. His website is boomerleehomes.com. So thank you, Boomer, so much for being here with us today.
Oh, Judy, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And hey, if you are looking for an amazing lender, you need to talk to Judy and Zach at Homestar.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Zach, let's have some final words. What do you think is a very important piece, maybe the most important piece for homeowners, home buyers, that we may not have touched on in this podcast?
Well, actually, I think Boomer hit on it right at the end there. So I think one of the most important things in this process is how crucial communication is. So really talking to your agent and really effectively telling them what you're looking for, and then listening to them so that you can find what you're looking for. Because at the end of the day, we're just in the position to be helping you. That is what our goal is. We are helpers. And so along with that is the same relationship to have with your realtors you have with your lender. Effective communication, letting us know exactly what you're looking for so we can tell you, yes, this is in your price range, and no, it isn't. And then asking questions. And I'm sure, Boomer, you have no problem asking or answering 100 questions from any client. And you probably do already. And that's what we want.
Yep, that is true.
At the end of the day, we're here for you. So
we are all here for you. I think that is the most important takeaway from this. Well, thank you everyone for stopping by to have a listen to our podcast. Next week, Zach and I will be talking about how much house you can afford. There will be some math, but don't worry. We're going to do it all out for you and link you to our favorite house hunting calculators. We will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Boomer.
Thank you, Zach.